Welcome to the second game of the Phoenix Esports inaugural split. I'm going to be your play-by-play for today. My name is Ars Akali. Thank you for joining us. Joining me on the color side of this desk, it is Sultan. Sultan, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good. This is my obviously first time casting because this is a pretty new league. But new league, new teams, new players. It's always something exciting to kind of get into.
Absolutely, and we have got some great teams tonight. Never Lucky Gaming is going up against High on Meeps. And to be completely and frankly honest with you, I've been looking over these team comps. What is sticking out to you, Sultan, in these team comps right now?
Um, I would say like one of the teams look more like spread around with their ranks about their players. They have plats, golds, and a silver player. On the other team, they're generally around that like mid gold, and like they have a one plat 4 player. That is like two different approaches to kind of building a team, in my opinion, because like one of them you're trying to be like as close as you can be to the average, so that like all of your players will not struggle. On the other side, you're just kind of taking a huge bet with like getting a lower ranked player for one of your roles, but then you're able to get like another, you can sneak in another plat player into your roster because this is a point based system.
That's right. This is a point based system. Points are determined based on the ranks of the players on both teams. Never Lucky is capping out at 3,600. That is a team where they took silver 4 as Red Panda for their ADC, and the rest is low plat, high gold. High on Meeps is capping out at 3,200 points. Most of their players are high gold or low platinum. And it's going to be interesting to see if that pays off for Never Lucky Gaming. Some people would say that they took essentially a handicap in their bottom lane, and the bet here is that they're able to support that bot lane well enough to where it actually doesn't become an issue.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm just not. I think it can work because there has been a decent amount of like team comps where I see you can put a double support bot lane down there. You can put in like Seraphine, just like safe farming mages, and like if that's what you're scared of, if you're scared of your bot lane really losing that, I think there's a lot of ways that you can kind of take a safe approach. And if I'm high on Meeps, like I'm just looking at just like an overall decent, like just a regular team comp where you would have a decently strong ADC that will be your late game savior. But on the other side, Never Lucky Gaming, I think they can like really have some different approaches while they're drafting. Their ADC specifically, he plays Seraphine, he plays Ezreal, he plays Jhin. These are champions that not specifically require a lot of resources and be really useful for their teams. Ezreal can be like one of those ADCs where you just leave him down, and the bot side you can like make him weak sided and like kind of play through that. Jhin has a lot of utility for an ADC, not your normal ADC where you're trying to get as many auto attacks as possible. Instead, you're trying to make use of your abilities. Same as Seraphine, it's just like a super strong mage where you can clear minion waves. So I think they can take that approach instead of like forcing Red Panda on a hyper carry.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about the possibility of maybe seeing a double support bottom, we do see uh, a, the possibility of a great meta starting to develop here in the split. And it sounds like have our teams ready for the first draft of the night. So let's head over there. Sultan, if you are drafting here today, what is your first pick? What have you seen on these teams that you really want to ban out?
Well, I feel like there's a lot of like main champions for a lot of these players. I guess mentioning in them now wouldn't be leaking anything. It's just like the Fiddlesticks pick for NLG's jungler. Like it's one of the most played. I think another one for the same player is the Belveth. I'm mentioning him mainly because I think he's the player that is worth the most points. I think like just kind of cutting his champ pool would be really important for HOM. On the other side, there is Donut 2907, which is like a huge Wix stan. I think majority of his games this season were on Wex. I just wouldn't risk it. I would just like go ahead and ban that champion. It just never, just don't give anyone their one trick. I think that is always the safest approach you can just like get while drafting. Just don't give people their one tricks because they know not only that they are good with the champion and like have the mechanics really like taught to themselves deep down, they also know the matchup. So even if you have a counter pick, now maybe you haven't played the matchup too much, but he did. He played 400 games of it. So I feel like just banging the Vex is always good, and they did.
Yep, the Fiddlesticks is going to get banned out. You know, you're absolutely right. You don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't spit into the wind, you don't pull the mask off that old Lone Ranger, and you don't give anyone their one trick. We also see bans coming down for Vex, Garen, Senna, and Hecarim. That Garen ban especially, it seems to me like it might be targeted at Never Lucky Gaming, but they banned it themselves, so I'm not really sure what's going on here.
I think both players on the for HOM and NLG, I think Get Off My Doink and Berserker, they both played a champion, and with the first pick being in NLG,
Swain.
I think that would have been that would have been the reason why they banned it. But again, there's a guy named Nerf Swain on the enemy team, so why
It
not
does seem like they would have stolen the Swain as the first pick for High on Meeps. Swain is so versatile. Doesn't matter what the meta is, Swain has always been versatile. You can put him in mid lane, you can put him in as a support. Heck, I've even seen Swain go top lane, especially in some lower tier matchups. He is just a great flex pick to start off on, and it doesn't really tell the enemy team anything. And do my eyes deceive me? Is one of the Sultan prophecies coming true right before our eyes? I see Seraphine getting locked in for Never Lucky Gaming.
Yeah, and to be honest, Seraphine, I think they don't really like this. Doesn't also show much to the enemy team, especially when you pick it on Red 1. Unless they show like a supporter mid here, you can still pair up Seraphine with someone such as MF. You can send her mid and just pick a completely different bot lane. They can keep that flex up. And one thing that I always keep in mind while having a Swain on the enemy team, can I pick Silas? Because Silas turns into another monster when he has that possibility of getting the Swain ult for himself. For a champion that already has a lot of sustain, that would be really painful to deal with. I personally don't think it is an option now, since Brand just got locked in, which I have
I
to
do believe
check.
that would be our double support bot lane. I do
Yeah,
believe NLG is falling directly into what you were thinking, where they want to keep Red Panda safe. In the late scaling, Seraphine's going to be a monster, and High on Meat, it looks like they want to target that. Swain and Caitlyn, they really want to get in and scrap for this bottom lane. This is going to be a very starved bottom lane for Never Lucky Gaming if the game goes how it would normally go with this matchup.
yeah. And they can even send Swain mid and maybe opt in for, I don't know, something like,
Silas!
never mind. I guess
Are we
House
sure
on
they're
Meat-
not listening to the stream right now? Are we sure they're not tapping in? All right, Silas gets our third pick for High on Meeps, and you know he's already got some juicy ultis to steal here. The Seraphine ulti on a Silas. Not only would that do a decent amount of damage, nothing to write home about, but the ability to pull in the enemy team to have that charm time, it's pretty invaluable. And it looks like Never Lucky's going to respond with a gangplank that is almost by necessity going to go into the top lane as we get into the second round of bans.
Yeah, and I guess with that, we're just gonna see a bunch of jungle bans for the second phase because we were talking about it also before we actually got on live. I think the most important matchup here, just for player, just even before the draft picks, I think was going to be jungle because on one side you have the lowest ranked player from NL. I'll just make sure. I think NLG. Yes. No. On high on Meeps, they like Dorgard is their lowest ranked player, and
Oh, you're right, yes.
on the other hand, Never Lucky Gaming have their highest rank, the most like the player that is worth the most points for their jungle position. So now we're just kind of seeing this is where House of Meeps they should be kind of like trying to create like not go behind. It is kind of the same position that Red Panda is in for Never Lucky Gaming. It's like, can I perform up to a level to someone that is higher in rank than me?
Yeah, and now we're seeing bans come out. Never Lucky Gaming seems to be looking at that jungle. They're banning out Jax to start. We're about to see their second ban come down. High on Meeps banning for the mid lane. It looks like they're trying to make Silas's life a little bit easier. And a Malzahar ban. I haven't heard Malzahar be relevant in years. Sultan, what do you think? Do you think this is just a comfort ban for Never Lucky Gaming here? Where is a Malzahar coming from?
I actually have no idea. Like, does Zac, the NLG jungler, actually plays it? Like Malzahar, what was the maybe it was a last second ban that like it timed out? I don't know because this doesn't really make sense. They showed their mid lane, and I don't even think Malzahar can be played in any other lane than mid right now. It's not a good jungler. And it's maybe at best the ADC. Maybe they think this is Silas top, just in case. Just in case.
That would explain the gangplank.
Yeah.
If they're thinking they need to draft against Silas top, but at the same time, drafting a gangplank into a Silas, you're giving Silas access to that big ulti, and there is Bel'Veth. We were talking about her right before the draft started, and Bel'Veth, very much a feast or famine champ here. It's going to be interesting to see what Never Lucky can do with that for Tominato.
Yeah, and to be honest, Bel'Veth is just one of those champions where you just cannot let her get out of hand. If she starts snowballing, your game plan just crushes on the set, and like you just cannot really do a lot anymore. And with a Seraphine behind her, now that Bel'Veth is looking, I would say, extremely scary. And on the other side, we see Darius getting locked in first for against the GP pick, which is, I think if the Darius plays the early game good, there is some potential for him to win. But with how strong GP's scaling is, I would say like just one misplay might really cost Darius a lot because he's one of those champions. He wants to really get more dominant in the laning phase. That's one thing to look at.
We've got some interesting final picks here. Never Lucky Gaming going to pull out a Varus, which still could be a mid lane Varus, but it could also be a mid lane Seraphine. Hard to tell right now before we go into the actual game. But also we see Annie coming out for High on Meeps, and I feel like they might just be playing high. I don't know where Annie fits into this comp. Darius would be top lane. Silas, is Silas our jungler here?
Yeah, I think Silas jungle like just rose to popularity in the meta, especially in the preseason. I think the biggest problem that Silas always had in the jungle was his clearing power. And once the clearing was easier with the help of the jungle pets and like how healing works overall and like how you just don't take as much damage as before, Silas can kind of like just get away with a really bad clear on the first and second clears. So I think that is totally fine. For the Varus, I would have to like take my bet for him being mid lane because the gymnastics, the mid laner for NLG, he's actually a ADC main from his champion, or what it seems like. So it would be totally fine for him to go mid lane with that pick, and then maybe the double mage bot lane would make more sense because I don't know if pairing Brand mid with Seraphine versus bot lane would be a really good idea, especially in a position where your bot lane on paper is weaker than the enemies.
Yep, and as we see draft coming and getting locked in the actual game client, that Darius is going to top lane, is going to be facing off against the Gangplank. We do see Belveth coming in as a jungler for NLG, and Dorgard will be picking up who is the question. It looks like it is in fact the Silas in the jungle for Ion Meeps.
Yeah, I I
That
guess I guess when you think about it, it might have been Darius jungle, but with Silas being in jungle now, he has the after he hit 6. Now he can like move up to top, pick up GP ult, and even if he's not there for the gank, he can use that. He can pick up Seraphine ult. Like when you're roaming, you're just going to be able to make use of these ults way more. And especially when there's Varus, GP, Seraphine, these are like 3 ultimates that can really work well. They have really good AP scalings. Like we
Yeah, we will
know,
be seeing Varus in the mid lane as well for NLG,
yeah.
which
So
confirms the Sultan prophecy has been fulfilled. We have a double support bot for NLG this game. It really is a game of keep Red Panda as little red as possible.
yeah, and like for me, Seraphine, even if you fall behind, like even if you make some mistakes, you're still going to be able to use your ultimate in the team fights. You're going to be able to provide shield and movement speed to your allies. You can layer CC. I think it's much easier to pilot as a champion when compared to like a Jinx where you're constantly looking for your positioning. If you do one mistake, you don't have too much mobility, so you're gonna get like more than likely die. So like I feel like even if they are in a position where they're losing in bot lane and winning top side, I would take Seraphine over any ADC most of the time.
Now, I'm just playing theory crafting here. But could this brand from Never Lucky Gaming on Nerf Swain, could that be our actual ADC for this game? It makes more sense in my mind, at least, to have Seraphine pick up a support mythic and have Brand actually go in as this AP heavy bruiser from the bottom lane.
Oh, definitely. I feel like that is kind of what they're looking for. I still think they will be following the gold into the Seraphine mainly because, like, support items are cheaper and like in a position where Belveth is really strong and Seraphine is getting the cheap support items completed on a like fast pace compared to an actual support. Now you have a fed Belveth, a scaling GP, a Varus mid. I'm not sure how that's gonna go. And then you have a really strong support Seraphine that is like that has I don't know Shurelya's or Moonstone already completed at like I don't know 10 minutes, 15 minutes in.
Mm.
So I would say that is a really risky situation to be in
Speaking
for
of
House of Meeps.
risky, let's zoom in on that mid lane matchup. Never Lucky Gaming's Gymnastics taking Varus into High on Meeps Donut, who is, by the way, their highest ranked player on Annie. Now, it seems to me like this Varus was a very fast lock after they saw Annie come in. It almost feels like a counter pick. It's going to outrange Annie a decent bit of the time. And that comes with some downsides. Varus himself is not going to be able to get away from a gank. If he's just a little bit too far forward, that is easy picking for a Silas. How much of this game do you think is really going to come down to how this mid lane is operating?
I feel like unless there's like some huge misplace from Donut, I think it's going to be really hard for the Spurs to kind of play. I'm not sure for like the reasoning for the pick, but like even after 6, any flash ult and Varus will more than likely die unless he goes like shield both first item, which I don't think he would for with a Varus mid. And then as for you as for what you mentioned, like she gets her stacks before 6 Qs, even if Varus flashes, Silas can still just like use his E to catch up to him where he flashes, gets like Varus is already stunned, knocked up, and then like he's still gonna die. I feel like it's really hard to survive those things with an ADC where you don't really have that survivability on your kit, especially as Varus. So I would
Absolutely.
think it would be really like it's a really risky pick, like really risky. It's even more like I don't know. It's going to be
And we're
something.
going to see. We're going to see if those risks pay off here in a moment. We're going to take a short break while we wait for the spectator delay to wind down. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we will be going right into the game. And welcome back, everybody. We are going into game at this point. We see a full 5-man invade coming out from high on Meeps, and they are going bananas. We have already started the action. I was not prepared at all. We're going to be pushing Never Lucky Gaming out of the jungle, but in the process, we are going to catch out that red panda. That's the ignite coming off. He's just trying to keep himself healthy enough, but he's not. He's going to go down within the first couple of seconds here. Almost as soon as they were out of the box, they had a plan and they were going straight for it. And they got the most important pick on the map. They got that Seraphine. If they can keep that from scaling at any possible way, that's going to be big for them.
Yeah, and like, I think that is basically the worst case scenario because, like, not only did Red Panda die, he burned Flash, heal, nerf Swain, burned his own Flash, and on the other side, Caitlyn and Swain, they hold their summoner spells, they have their ignite, they have their heals, they have their flashes, and it will be just like constant kill pressure for them now. Did I say wrong? I guess the Swain opted in for a Grasp rune, which is like
Grasp of the Undying.
That is
he is going for more of a tanky Swain, which was something I wanted to talk about when we came back. We do not have very tanky options on either side of the field here. Darius can become a bit of a tank, Gangplank can become a bit of a tank, but it's not their first priority. Their first priority is attack damage. Meanwhile, we have this Swain in the bottom lane taking the Grasp of the Undying. It's clear he wants to become a bit of an AP tank, and if that works out for them, that does give High on Meeps a pretty decent advantage.
I can see like the reasoning kind of, but it is still, I don't know.
It is a big if.
I'm not a fan. The main reason just being, how many times are you gonna be able to proc it into a double mage lane? Like,
it's hard to say, but Bel'Veth is wanting to proc into this Annie. Bear is setting up for it. Bel'Veth taking that turret damage. He is going to get away with his life, but Annie will not donut. Looking pretty tasty out there in the mid lane. And now we see, I'm seeing Dorgard circling in towards that mid lane now. Thank you, camera. Bel'Veth getting very low, but still wanting to go in on the Silas. That's going to be the flash in. Good knock-up, and Dorgard is going to go down to gymnastics. He's going to take Tominato with him. That mid lane, we were talking about it before we went to break. That is going to be one of the biggest win factors here.
Yeah, but the Varus already getting ahead, plus the double buffs early on, it really gives him an edge, because Varus, you kind of want to just use your abilities to mainly poke down these Annie. Like, your abilities are higher range than Annie, especially in the early game. So the more he's able to get these Qs and Es out onto this Annie and chunk her down, there's going to be way more ganking and kill opportunities in the mid lane, especially with Donut's flash being down right now. Now we need to keep an eye on the bot lane because there's no flash on Red Panda, and
Flash still has about 10 seconds to come up, and Silas, he knows that. Here comes Dorgard. He's locking down the Seraphine as best he can. We get a flash out of the Swain to land the Ignite, and there's a big shot coming out of Caitlyn. I think Red Panda survives that, though, which is great. He got 2 full summoners out of that trade, and now we see Tominato coming up to the top lane. Darius pushed in, but he can't land a single shot. Darius is going to go for a full tower dive. Bel'Veth is low. Tominato goes down as Berserker decides, I'm just gonna dive this. Take out their jungler. Take him off the map for a little while. Give Dorgard a little time to recover and get some nice camp.
Yeah, and it is a trade-off in the end. They are able to get an invade, but I don't know. I feel like just trading, I don't know how good that is, because he had the control of the lane. I think he could have just played that one safe and almost forced both of them out of the turret range. He could have maybe he could have played that one safer, and another play in mid lane.
Speaking of safe, No one is safe at the moment. Swain is going to go down as we see a gank in the mid lane. Gymnastics is going to flash away over the wall to safety. It is so hard to keep up with this. This is turning into a full-blown fiesta. We're at 7 kills in less than 6 minutes.
Yeah, it is going to be a pretty chaotic game. It's just like everyone is kind of doing a lot of things.
Speaking of chaotic, that's a big stun out of Annie, and Silas is going to shut him down. Gymnastics going away for 12 seconds.
Yep. Then that's a shutdown, especially onto the Silas, where...
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and Tominato, like, he has been really efficient with his ganks. Every lane, I think every gank that he went for have been successful mainly, and I feel like Dorgard just trying to keep up with him and like getting this shutdown will be really helpful. Now with 2 kills, he is looking really strong. Like I think that this is kind of turning into what we were talking about. It will kind of come down to, can NLG's bot lane not lose so that their top side can carry? Like the Bel'Veth, although she only has assists, she's making good work around the map. The Varus is performing better than what we expected, and GP is still safe up there, kind of scaling to eventually become that monster in the late game. So
yep.
For
now,
NLG, it is good.
I do want to talk about the item sets for a second. Specifically, Gymnastics. It looks like he's building an AP Varus in the mid lane. That's going to be a full 2 or 3/5 of the never gonna, or not very lucky team. That's going to be ability power out. Never mind. Silas is coming in. Big Annie ult. And that is going to be a very frosty Varus. Gymnastics goes away one more time.
Yeah, and I think that's what we have mentioned. I think, like, when this Varus pick was actually picked, it's just, okay, now you don't have your flash. How do you live when this Annie has ultimate? And the answer to that question is you basically just don't. You just die. Because there's too much CC, there's too much damage. And Varus in the early game, you're not going to be able to tank that much. Maybe the only way around it might be an early Merc Shreds. But I don't know if that's the choice that you want to go for, especially when
Absolutely.
you're playing AP versus mid. Like I know some people would like to build maybe Sork shoes for the extra pen, but I feel like he needs to pay that tax against the Annie and the Silas if he wants to kind of just stay safe in that mid lane.
Yep, you know, the question has been asked, do you believe in life after Flash? Gymnastics does, Dorgard does not, and he has been doing his best to make sure everyone understands that. Speaking of Dorgard, he's coming down into the bottom lane. He gets frozen out by Seraphine, but he's hanging around. He's wanting that pressure there on that bot lane, which has actually been doing a lot better than we thought they would. We see Red Panda very much holding his own at this point in the lane.
And I would say the...
Oh, wait, well, I might have just jinxed it. Nope, we're gonna see Dorgard miss the skill shot there. He almost... Oh, never mind, the caster curse is real. Brand having to flash away as Silas pulls out the Seraphine ult. He also misses again. But I'm gonna hand it over to you, because at this point, I think I am causing these fights.
I think that's...
Speaking of Seraphine, out the ult! And now Brand is barreling down that Swain. Swain, what, 20 HP? No HP, in fact. Caitlyn coming up behind, though. Seraphine in the same boat. He is going to go down. Caitlyn very low. Brand really wanted to find that kill, not going to be able to. And now Silas is going to have...
Oh, wait, he's not going to
disengage. No fricassee for Silas.
Oh, Varus is here.
Fricassee, though. There is some citrus
going
into...
Donut!
Oh my gosh. Varus still alive. Brand somehow still alive. Bel'Veth in the top lane taking some tower plates. This is such a fiesta.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but in the end, I would say the clear winner for at least the last few fights would be NLG. Now they have Bel'Veth farming up that top lane turret, and he's going to get a lot of gold.
And that's the Rift Herald drop in the top lane as well. Don't forget, Bel'Veth gets a little something extra out of that Rift Herald because he start, he becomes a little portal of Zerat, if anyone's old enough to remember that item. And that is going to be a lot of pressure in the top lane. It's actually going to bring up Dorgard, who is going to chase after Tominato. Tominato's low, and leave Gangplank all alone, and he doesn't even get the tower!
That is
insult
a bummer.
and injury!
Okay, there's just so many things going on, but the kamikaze attempt at the top lane first turret just didn't really work out for Get Off My Doink, and a lot of kills have been gifted to this Darius. Like, it might get scary once they...
Speaking of scary, Brand's in a bad place, and he's gonna get headshot! And now, oh no, Red Panda's all alone, and it's really who wants the kill? Who wants the kill? Sinjincia wants the kill, and we're gonna see that one go over to her. And now, this Chemtech Drake has been on the field long enough. It is going to get picked up by High on Meeps.
Yeah, and it has been like just 17 kills in 11 minutes.
Hold up. Because now we see Gymnastics trying to clear a ward, but he didn't know that ward had a small girl in pigtails. He is going to go down to Sinjincia as well. 3 kills in the last 2 minutes for that Caitlyn.
Yeah, we were talking about how like bot lane was actually performing fine for NLG, and like the top side was also like just holding their own in a scaling team comp, and in the last few minutes, just the Get Off My Doink dying for the top turret and not being able to get it, the Varus dying for no reason in a 1v4 trying to steal the dragon, just really awkward calls. I don't know, I feel like that was just I guess the mistakes that can be made by gold teams sometimes. It's just not being sure of what to call as a team, because just being on the same page is hard, and sometimes those mistakes do happen. Let's look at the items, and there's a Gale Force on that.
There are in fact items, lots and lots of items. Darius picking up Gale Force, which, as you point, that's a little weird. It does give him a nice little dash, though. You know, that's something Darius often needs, is just a little bit more of an effort to close the distance for that final execution. And that might be what he's going for here. He might say, hey, well, I am actually going to go to mid lane, where we see Gymnastics. He's doing some mental gymnastics right now, trying to justify his pick.
Yeah, and like, again, it is literally the same thing over and over again. Donut walks up, ults him, the Silas just drops in his combo, and he's dead. There's not much he can do. I thought maybe he would go in for like a cleanse as his summoner choice, since like it is really obvious why you pick any. Like, you just stun them for once, and then your team just kind of layers the CC and damage. So it might have been helpful. He didn't.
You know, I should apologize to Donut. I should apologize to Donut for saying this Annie pick was proof they were high on Meeps. It may still be proof of that, but it's doing fantastic work here in the mid lane.
Yeah. Well, Annie is just one of those picks where, like, it is really hard to make misplays on. It is really solid. Has high burst damage. Oh, Dorgard.
Oh, yes. Oh, Red Panda. He was just 5 feet outside of his turret, and that's all he needed to be. It's heartbreaking, but down he goes. And I'm seeing a lot of pings around this Rift Herald. 10 seconds before it pops up. And there is Varus. He's going to chunk down the Darius. Berserker is going to go down before he even knows who's behind that wall.
Yeah, and to be honest, the first turret was picked up by the bot lane for High on Meep. So I think that was a good job. Even though the top lane turret was 1 HP, the NLG squad kind of struggled to grab that for a while now. They finally pick it up, but I think this is the problem with the Gale Force pick on the Darius. It's just like, okay, you have that dash, you have extra little bit of more damage, but you're super squishy against the team that has a lot of damage. Like, there isn't really a lot of tanks on the NLG team comp, but instead a lot of damage.
A lot of damage there if they can set it up right. And we will see that officially both Rift Heralds are going to go over to the side of NLG. They're at least winning in that at the moment, because right now they're not winning in a whole lot else. They got a 2,000 gold deficit at this point. They're down by, if my math is at a second grade level, 5 kills. It's not looking too hot for them at the moment, but this is definitely a hill that can be climbed. Speaking of climbing, Velvet's going to climb over that wall and try to get Silas all by his own lonesome, but he's got backup! And there we go. Darius is going to get locked up. Oh, but Annie flashes over the wall. That was such a great turn. Like, high on Meep, they knew exactly what they needed to do there. As soon as they see Doink and Gymnastics show up, it's like everyone collapse right now, and we're going to get mid-turret off of this. And you know what else they're going to get? A nice Testa Ocean Drake that just spawned.
Yeah, and I feel like that was just fighting a little bit more than what they can chew right now. It's just like, as the Belveth, yes, I feel like Tominato has been showing really good knowledge about the champion and how much he can tank the damage with all that. But now that might be one of those plays where that you kind of lose the game off that, or like you lose the tempo of the whole game. And if I didn't see wrong, I feel like Get Off My Doink had a Divine Sunder and now he has an Essence Reaver. I don't know if he undid it in the shop, but I hope he didn't sell the item. That's a really bad practice for League of Legends. But
I'm actually going to check, because that can't be right. I think we're getting Mandela effect, but I believe you're right. I believe he sold off for the Essence Reaver. I need to check that after the game. I really need to check that after the game. That's interesting. Maybe it was a misclick at first.
I think he bought it when he was dead and then changed it before he left the base. But when we really think about it, I feel like the crit build is totally the right way. It's just like the enemy team, yes, they have CC damage, but they're also squishy. Other than probably the Swain, who is kind of building a little bit tankier than your usual Swain builds, like no Rileys and stuff. But there's like a really cheese bush happening.
Speaking of crit builds, we have to talk. We have to talk about Sinjisia, who is kind of the unspoken. Oh, wait, never mind. Brand wanted to check a bush. And Nerf Swain is proving why it needs to be done. We're now going to see them move down to the bottom lane. We're going to. Oh my gosh. Berserker's going to get chained out before he can even make a move. And that is going to be enough oath damage out of Belveth and Varus combined to take him out.
Yeah.
That could have gone very differently.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage.
I'm just not a fan of Gale Force. Well, oh, Donut?
Speaking of, Annie stayed around just a bit too long to try and protect the turret, and Donut's gonna go down for it.
Wait, she just right-clicked into the middle of 3 people for no reason. And
I do that too sometimes. Sometimes you just feel like it's gone on too long, and there's really no reason to go on. But we are going on. We've had a lot of ultis traded right here, but at the end of the day, Dorgard is backing off, and Berserker is not. So he's going to go down.
Oh, please sell the Gale Force. It is just... Like, I maybe if he was, like, perma playing for side lane, maybe then I would say okay. But I feel like he's just going to be really weak in these team fights. And, like, while you pick Darius, like, the only way a Darius will be, like, extremely useful in a team fight, you're gonna get a reset and then, like, keep running inside the team fight. If you cannot survive, like, we're seeing he's doing damage, but he just gets one shot until he gets the Noxian Guillotine off. So it doesn't really make any difference, and now we're seeing a Baron play coming from NLG, which will actually put them in the gold lead.
That's
and
right,
there's
they
no
have started on
contest.
Baron. There's no contest because there's no vision. I don't think Meeps even knew what was happening, but now NLG is making a desperate push down the mid lane. They're trying to take any tempo back in this game. Gangplank is going to be the one who pays for it with at least a flash. He's going to put down his own ultimate to try and slow them down, which he will, giving his life for the attempt to keep the push going. On the back line, we see Gymnastics. He pushed out his ult just to slow down Darius one more time, and now they're stuck between a turret and a hard place, and that hard place is Silas's rippled ab. He's gonna go in and actually go down pretty fast. Swain, though, ulti is draining everyone very slowly. That's getting chunked out by the big teddy bear. Swain wins these by a mile. Seraphine is going to be the last woman standing. Swain!
He doesn't even have an item. He doesn't even have a mythic. Wait, okay.
Swain is true.
It's either I saw something wrong, but that Swain did all that damage, or it was like any that just looked like Swain. Because, I don't know, the Narshal was just standing amidst 4 people, and then they just completely burned down really fast. So, that was really interesting.
Let's talk about that Baron play. That Baron play ends up with 2 turrets.
Yeah, they did get some.
And now we're at even gold. We're at even gold. And
they're actually still ahead. They're still ahead. They don't get to use they're not gonna get to use the side. I guess the like the full map push and like just the side lane pressure. But
speaking of the full map, let's point this out. This is pretty important. Gangplank's in the top lane for this team fight, and Silas Dorgard's gonna go down to Taminato, activate the Bel'Veth ulti before we even get onto this Cloud Drake. That's pretty important. Varus getting slowed down by Swain on the back line. Varus gonna pull him in. Varus, he did a lot of damage, but in the end, it wasn't enough. Bel'Veth was chasing, and Brand is gonna have to pop his watch, but it's not gonna be enough. He's also going to go down. No superiority over the Cloud Drake at the moment, but it looks like Meep are in retreat, and that will give it over to NGL.
Yeah, with no ults available to them, especially on the Swain, the GP still pushing on the side and super crashing in their base.
He's doing yeoman's work. He picked up another turret during that fight, and more than half of this one, but he will give his life once again to just not take down a turret.
He's playing Inting Sion with GP. That is a tactic that I haven't really seen a lot, but it is paying out because no one on the Ion Meeps team is really willing to match him in the side lane. And to be honest, although like he's not playing the best game of his life, I feel like with the build that both of them have, that GP can easily solo kill that Darius. Like, if he's able to get off some barrels.
And Berserker really just doesn't want to have that fight. He's content to be on the front line for his team, filling in whenever he can. And it's really interesting to see.
Yeah, and also he's not also building any MR, given that the enemy team has 3 AP champions, or like AP building champions. We're also slowly seeing the support items coming through. The Moonstone finally finished with the Seraph's Embrace, so that Seraphine, although building a little supportive, still does a decent amount of damage on the the Leandry's completed for Brand, which is, I would say, the most important item in his build. Close to 4 items on that Bel'Veth, completing Kraken, Borg, Wits, and having the Mercury
traits against
the
It looks like the Rage Blade is coming up.
Yeah, and like that when she gets a reset, the amount of attack speed that Bel'Veth gets is just absolutely crazy. 2.8 already.
I smell a fight. I smell a fight. And here we go. Silas is going to jump over the wall, and he is going to get out. Bel'Veth is going to get her ulti off of that one. Swain, he's trying to do it again, but he's going to get shut down. Annie is ulting like you wouldn't believe. More than half health. Everybody. Varus is getting cleaned up. Bel'Veth is running for the hills and needs to keep running because there is a lady with a gun right behind her.
Yeah, it was just... This is why you pick Annie. It's like, you press one ultimate, and then a fight that you started out losing, by losing your jungler, just now seems like it's all gone.
Bel'Veth hiding under turret. He's actually gonna take down Berserker, and now he is after the Caitlyn. Almost dashed. You could kind of see the intention. Almost dashed into that trap. Didn't, and lost almost half health just for that little bit of hesitation against the Caitlyn. But if he had dashed in, it would have been all health. So you take it where you can get it.
That Caitlyn is also getting scary. Already 3 items in, Infinity Edge completed. And if it, like, again, both teams are playing really squishy team comps. No one is able to like tank maybe more than 2 champions hitting them at the same time. So just being able to zone control with this Caitlyn with the traps is going to be really valuable. Another Baron play might be in the books for NLG. They take this super fast with the Leandries, with the Varus's HP damage, Dorgard.
And it looks like we're gonna go in. Bel'Veth going in on the Sylas. He's going to pop invincibility as Annie tries to pop Brand. He is gonna pop. Sylas is going down. Dorgard is out. All they have left is Segencia and Berserker. Berserker's trying to guard the bottom lane. That's gonna be 2 Barons for NLG, and that might be enough. These are some wicked long retimes on it right now, and if they get a good reset and push well, this Baron could be the game.
Yeah, and they're gonna look to push that top lane wave first of all, and to be honest, the more waves you're able to grab with this Bel'Veth passive, the harder it will be for defending this. These little minions are just, oh my god.
I like to call them the baby Zerats in honor of the greatest item that League should never have killed. Speaking of killing things, this turret is not long for this world with a level 17 Bel'Veth with almost all of the gold advantage right on her. Varus is right over the wall and he's taking picks. Bel'Veth is leading the charge! Dorgard, I didn't even see him go down! Swain is trying to come in on the backside now. Bel'Veth is going... His ult times out at just the wrong moment, and it causes him to time out as well. Darius getting picked off now by the Varus. He's gonna pull in. Varus will give his life for that kill, and now Caitlyn is the last woman standing. NLG has pulled this game back with one good Baron fight. That is all they needed.
Yeah, and
that was I did not expect that flip to come out. Something I wanted to talk about in those last couple of minutes, but something I couldn't talk about because the game was being a game, is the gold distribution on both teams. Gymnastics pulled ahead by 10,000 in that last minute or so with that Baron buff, but right before that Baron fight started, Tominato had by far the most gold on NLG. We're talking 10,000 over everybody else. They were ahead only 2,000 gold at the end there, and almost all of it was on Tominato. Tominato was that Bel'Veth. We were talking about it before. Feast or famine, and at the end, Tominato had a kingly feast.
Yeah, and like that is kind of the champion's nature. It's like that. I think he got off to a really good early game. He was kind of shut down by HOM and like their kind of picks, these mid game picks with Annie, Darius. Like these champions are really kind of hard to make active plays on consistently. But then again, we talked about it. The scaling will eventually come through. The items were being completed, and this Bel'Veth, even when she builds a lot of attack speed and damage, she's so tanky with her E stance. Like, she just blocks a lot of damage, and once she gets that reset, you're kind of just waiting to just be killed by her or her spawnlings. Like, it is really hard, especially when you give 2 Heralds and 2 Barons towards the Bel'Veth. I feel like him, like, just playing Bel'Veth, you are kind of forced to focus more off the Herald side of things instead of the Dragons in the in the early minutes of the game. So I think he just made really good use of that overall.
Absolutely, yeah. The objective control from NLG really is what tipped this game over. Those two heralds, those two barons taking it when Meep wasn't even thinking about it, really. That's the only way they stayed alive in that rough mid game, where Meep was running over their bottom lane, where Meep was really having a feast out of the mid lane. That mid game Baron, that two turret mid game full team kill Baron, actually ended up being so important to keep them in the running for this game, to keep them just even enough to pull out the victory at the end.
Yeah, and I think another like I think this was kind of comes down to really good drafting. Although I don't personally like the Varys pick, it kind of worked out in the end. He was able to pick up the kills off these team fights. We saw where he struggled with, and probably if uh I will check his name so I don't miss. Okay, Dorgard. I feel like Dorgard, after getting ahead, he kind of also got ahead of himself and started getting picked a lot before these big objectives coming up, before these big fights. Like right as his fight was about to start, he would get picked and like kind of leave his team in a 4v5. I okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, Dorgard definitely got out a little bit over his skis that game. I would love to hear the comms on these teams, because something we haven't really brought up. Dorgard and Tamanado, both of our junglers, are our team captains today. I have to wonder, was Dorgard calling for these things and the team just not following? Was there some kind of breakdown in communications around these picks? I'm not sure. But what I am sure of is that we are ready to go to our second draft, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
um, we will see, but I'm kind of expecting a few new bands in this one. Last the last the last one that we saw, there was obvious bans. The one tricks getting banned, especially the Vex. I think it was the Hecarim. Also be getting out of being put out of the table, which like I feel like Hecarim is still in that position where there's a few builds he can go, there's a few playstyles you can like the few approaches to the jungle with Hecarim right now. So I feel like if you're a good Hecarim player, you can just be a menace, and I'm just definitely all for like a Seraphine and a Belveth ban from House of Meeps, because I feel like those two like if you pick Belveth with another jungler, with another supportive mage, it's going to be a problematic. If you pick Seraphine with another carry jungler, it's also going to be problematic. So I'm just looking forward to
Yeah,
those
both sides
bans.
of that are equally true. And as we get into the bands here, we see Vex and we see Fiddlesticks. We're almost completely copying last band, except no Hecarim band to start. I actually think that's going to end up being a mistake. Both of these junglers would love Hecarim's style of aggressive early gank gameplay. You run into mid, you get the kill, you get out. If you can get it really clean, you just ride through there, swing the axe, get ahead, and you're not even stopping. It's not even an Uber stop here. We're just going to cruise straight through mid lane. If that gets left up on the board, I would be very worried about that for whatever team is honestly going to leave it up. We do see Belveth getting banned out. High odd means they would be very high if they didn't ban Belveth.
Yeah, and I think they kind of realized they need to focus on a bit more on the jungle bans. I feel like there's no need to really ban anything else. Well, it is still kind of similar bans to what they had in the first one. The Hecarim ban is still not all there. There it is.
There
So
it is.
they just sub in the Belveth for the Senna ban. But NLG this time.
Their Swain is going to get his Swain, which I am excited. We saw some great Swain play last game. I'm excited to see what the Swain play looks like on this side of the map. That is going to be really interesting to me.
Yeah.
We see high on memes, they decide, actually, the first thing we're going to do is lock in a very solid bot lane. It's going to be a Varus Braum bot lane, straight out the gate, bing, bang, right out. What's your thoughts on that pick?
Yeah, I feel like Varus is one of those like powerhouse picks in the bot lane right now. It is like just super, just safe. He scales again, but like especially with the Braum, he can work really well with the Braum. And NLG picks Seraphine into the Braum, which I don't think is a good idea, but because like your ultimate completely gets um just
Braum can completely turn off your ultimate.
yeah, like I'm not sure if that's a
But if
really
it
good
ain't broke,
idea.
don't fix it. It's a very safe
Yeah.
lane to go Seraphine Swain. Swain keeps them away. Seraphine blocks them down. Both of
Yeah.
these champs want you nowhere near them. I mean, Swain wants you to come a little bit closer, but just a nice, respectable distance away.
Yeah.
He wants lots of room for Jesus in that match. So does Seraphine. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's got to be LG's logic here, and I don't blame them. That bot lane was definitely not a problem in the first game. It could have been their biggest problem. But when we came to those last minute team fights, where we see a Fed Belveth up by a Seraphine with one or two items, that's scary enough. So why fix it?
Yeah, and they again go for that Olaf pick, which is kind of similar to Belveth in the sense that you kind of want to just get ahead, get it rolling. It works well with Seraphine, and if like he is really a pain to deal with, especially with Varus. You're most of the time depending on your ult to being able to kite, and once, but like if you're not able to stop the guy with the ultimate because he's unstoppable, now you're just gonna run into some issues. um the answer to the Olaf is the Udyr, which again, even for Udyr, there's been a lot of builds. The lethality one is completely disgusting. I've played against it a few times. I think it's been nerfed, but I've still seen some people still kind of roll with the build. um at least this time.
We got to look at these bans.
Okay.
All mid lane right now. Yasuo, Yone, Malzahar. We finally get a Darius ban out of NLG. I guess they thought that was enough of a difficulty in the top lane to deal with that we can throw a ban that way. I mean, so far, High on Meeps has completely changed their team comp from what we saw in the first game. Darius seems like a respectable ban here.
Yeah, and to be honest, House of Meeps, they're kind of going for a little bit of a more beefier team comp with a hyper carry ADC. Varus, well, when given the resources, can be that kind of the. If you guys cover me, I'm gonna win the game for you. And it's, even into an Olaf, he will be running in like right on top of his head with a Seraphine buffing him up. But Varus once completed the Borg, the shield bow to kind of keep himself alive. Now that's going to be really hard for the Olaf to kind of deal with, and you have a really good split pusher with Jax. The GP goes again is picked, but I feel like Jax can deal with GP. I don't think NLG's top laner was insane on the GP with the barrels or the laning. I feel like he actually made a decent amount of mistakes. He did get bailed out with some of the turret plating and split pushing eventually, but I feel like Jax would be a harder matchup than the Darius, because now you actually have to worry about that quick DPS constantly coming from Jax. The small trades, the jumping on top of you is way harder to deal with. So I feel like that is a really good pick from that side.
We will
and
also
we see
see,
Orianna.
yeah, Gymnastics coming out of his bot lane here into the Orianna pick, which is going to be interesting. See how he can perform there. I feel like Orianna is a little bit targeted at making sure they don't pick Annie. Anything but Annie. And we're going to see here. We got 20 seconds. I don't know. Place your bets now, folks. I think it's going to be Annie again.
Yeah. I was gonna say
And there it
maybe a
is.
Syndra pick, but I guess any also works. I don't know. I feel like a Syndra would have worked a little bit better. Like any obviously like popped off in a bunch of team fights last time, that in the last game, but like against an Olaf, against an Orianna, where now Orianna will be able to stay in a much safer space than Varus. Orianna's Q cooldowns are not as high. She can just stay in a safe place, farm, and this time, if any walks up a little like too forward in the lane, Olaf ganks, and you're just gonna get Orianna ulted and die. And Olaf is unstoppable, so it would be really hard for the Any to deal with that. Um, it will be kind of similar to the last game, I'm pretty sure. I think it will be pretty chaotic. The bot lane, this time they need to be a little bit more careful. I feel like Varus is much scarier in the bot lane than a Caitlyn. Especially when you go behind the Varus, like the Braum will kind of make sure that Varus stays untouched, and if touched, only by the Olaf.
Now, I would agree with you, but I think this is going to be a much slower game. And I think it's because both teams have learned an important lesson from that last game, which is we actually do need to draft a tank at some point. High on Meeps. We've got Braum, we've got Ujir, we've got Jax. I mean, all of these can spec into being a tank very easily. It's all Braum wants to do. Ujir can very well do it. Jax can very well do it. Swain on NLG, he wants to be a tank. Olaf can spec in. Gangplank can spec in, which is maybe what we see this time, is tankier options on these teams. It's going to be interesting to see, but at least we have a little bit of meatball going on here. We got a little bit of beefcake going on here, which is a welcome change from that fiesta of a last game. It's going to be a little bit slower, I think. And for all the right reasons. Both teams, I feel like it got out of control for both teams. Yes, High on Meeps had control of that mid game, and NLG just kind of gained control in the last 2 minutes, and it didn't stop. But I think for both of them, the game just kind of happened, and then it got out of their control, and then High on Meeps got a little bit lucky and got that control out of an NLG that was just too stunned to have a really good response to that. But this time, I think both teams want to slow down a little bit. I would be surprised if we go into another full fiesta.
Uh, I guess I certainly agree, at least to the point where like it shouldn't be at least on par with the last game, since like the champions are different. But I feel like even for this game, I think it might be a little bit more chaotic than your average game, just because I can already see the like House of Meeps bot lane trying to play off the Braum passive and like always looking for these 2v2s. Olaf versus Udyr, I feel like both champions will come down to like who plays the specific fight better. And then GP versus Jax, I feel like there was a lot of mistakes from both sides in the laning phase. So it will kind of like there's a lot of lanes where there's a lot of place and space for a lot of misplays and kind of dying 1v1 kills, getting ganked. We'll see how it turns out, but my take is that it's still going to be chaotic.
Now, speaking of chaos, let's see if we can't bring some order to that. NLG definitely wants to. We have Swain, Seraphine, and Orianna on the same team. I hear two words and they're ringing loud and clear: crowd control, crowd control. And they've got a lot of it. What do you think is the plan here? Is it just safe picks while Olaf and hopefully Orianna scale wildly? Or is this
Um,
really more of a we want to lock this down? They really had us kind of scattered last game. Let's get some good crowd control in here and lock down this game. Control it really well.
I'm not sure if they scale that hard. Like they do still have the Seraphine, the Swain. I just personally don't think Olaf scales that well, especially when there's and Varus on the enemy team. Like NLG, I think they're still looking to kind of play through the Olaf, get him ahead. But Olaf is really strong when he gets even the smallest lead in the early game, and especially once that mid game comes, he's going to be a menace that you just cannot even stop with CC. So I feel like that would be their game plan. Just kind of still, again, not really lose the bot lane. Get Olaf his 3 items as fast as possible. GP is in the side lane, just making sure that Jax is either busy, and if Jax is not there, he's taking turrets. And Orianna, this time, instead of the Varus, it will provide much better movement speed supply, the extra CC with the shockwave. I feel like those things will like come in handy, especially for NLG. On the other hand, House of Meeps, they're playing a much safer team comp. They have the Varus, they have the Braum, like they have that cover the ADC and kind of make him lead us to the win. Just slowly scale, or maybe from what I saw last game, if it's a chaotic one again, maybe that Varus can pick up early kills, and this Olaf just doesn't matter the whole game. Like if that Varus finishes like an early Bork, that Olaf is gonna get one shot.
It's very possible. Now, I do have one final question for you as that spectator delay starts to tick down. Do we see High on Meeps start another 5-man level 1 full dive into the enemy jungle?
I think they can. They absolutely can. They have Jax, the Braum especially. Like once you get hit by that Braum passive, it's just going to be really hard to play that. Only problem is I don't know if they're scared of the enemy team's level 1, because the Swain, the Seraphine, the Olaf, those are nasty champions to play against in level 1. But it didn't stop them last time, like they just went for it last time. Why not this time?
I mean, we will have to wait and see. We're going to take a short break while we wait for that spectator delay to count down. Stick with us on the other side. We go into game 2 of NLG versus High on Meeps. Welcome back to the second game of NGL versus High on Meeps, and we see immediately that the Meeps are going to run straight
Oh,
for the enemy jungle. Wait,
oh,
teams are?
both team?
I'm confused. What? Okay, we're
Yeah,
trying to beat them out there. Did we trade jungles today?
I th I
I think we're
think.
trading jungles.
Yep,
Oh
but
no! Oh, it's
they have
even
they have the
worse.
idea. They have the idea. They had the pinks going on, but they are on a ward.
They are passing over a ward, and now Meeps knows exactly where they are. They gotta be confused. Olaf's gonna throw. Oh, and he is actually going to. I believe that reveals a couple of them. So Olaf should have known what he was walking into there. But we have a fight. Jax is gonna. I believe that was a flash in. Set off his stun, and that is going to be first blood over to Sinjinsia. And now that Annie's looking a little bit low, going to have to flash over that wall. It's going to be a 0-for-1 right there, and a lot of tasty summoners burned on the side of the Meeps. Flash on Donut, flash. Oh, wait, I spoke too soon. Narshil, he's gonna go down to gymnastics. That's a big pickup for Jin. That first kill early on is going to be some much needed gold in his pocket before he goes to face a flashless Donut. Important to note, the only summoner burned on the side, well, two summoners now. Doink has burned his teleport, and Panda burned his heal.
Yeah, I guess the ghost also from Tominato, but that is a really low cooldown to build summoner
Oh,
spell.
speaking of low, Varus gets caught out by a nice Swain pull. He's gonna get chunked out pretty low there, but he is gonna live.
He has the potions and heal. He might. But the other team is pushing the wave, so
I believe it did get a flash out of him, actually.
yeah, they
So that was
did.
a big chunk for the bot lane there. This is going much better for NGL, even though they did get a 1-for-1 trade on kills. It's going much better for them in this opening than last game did by a long shot.
This is going to be really bad for Sengia, or Senjisia. I don't know. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but if he is not here fast, he might lose even more EXP, and you don't want to be down EXP. You
Now
are your team's damage dealer. Oh.
The tower plates are protected pretty. Speaking of protection, Udr is moving in. That Annie is going to go down to gymnastics, but Oriana's got the ignite on her. Is going to go down to Dorgard. Dorgard paying a flash for the privilege of a 1v1 in the mid lane. Gymnastics does not want that Annie going anywhere at all.
And he's not going to use the TP. I thought he would maybe, but
that would be a big lane advantage. But I guess he's happy to walk back.
He's not really walking, but he's just standing. Okay,
I do say
there
walking liberally, yes. A nice quiet saunter down the mid lane. Speaking of sauntering, it looks like we got a skull crab battle going. Dorgard is going after Tominato here. Tominato's not looking too good. That's gonna be a big Udr. Gangplank's coming in to defend though, and here is Donut on the other side. Udr is still low. Olaf is the prize here, and Dorgard, he's not gonna be able to get to Tominato in time. Tominato walks away. I believe, where does that scuttle go? Who gets it? The scuttle looks like it is going to go, well...
I'm not sure.
No, or... I don't think gymnastics is going to try and... Well, he might try to get it. I'm so invested in... What? I got so invested, I missed Narshil getting a kill on a nerf Swain. Well, that's bad. Oh, Jax is going to go after the Oriana, though. She overstayed her welcome for that scuttle crab. There's going to be a big jump, and it's not going to really result in that much.
And you said it wasn't going to be chaotic.
I did say that, and so far we are exactly the same level of chaos. I've got a calculator right here. I'm crunching the numbers. Yes, 6 kills at 4 minutes. We are at exactly the same pace as last game.
Yeah, and nobody's farming. It's like the Oriana's at 13 at 5 minutes in. The Annie's at 15. The Varus who missed the full first wave is one of the highest CS in the game. So I thought the side of at least the House of Meeps would look to farm a bit more, because like Jax kind of wants to scale, wants to hit a few items like GP, same as Varus. So I thought, like, at least I hoped that what you said about like changing the team comps would help with the amount of chaos we have in this game, but looks like that is just not the case.
Jax getting. Oh, Jax is going to go in on the gangplank here.
Oh.
A big stun coming in, but it's not really going to be enough to seal the deal. Gangplank's going to stick around. He's got his barrels. He's happy to do a little bit of poke-a-poke here, poke-a-poke there. Good little bit of skirmishing going on in the top lane. It's just friendly old skirmishing, Chuck.
And to be honest, this wave state is really hard for Berserker to really be in.
Jax is moving in again. Oh, here comes Olaf. This is the gank, ladies and gentlemen. That's a big to give Doink the second kill to Berserker. And now Annie's getting chunked out in the mid lane by this Orianna. Annie's not looking so hot. In fact, she looks a little bit cold. It's a good thing she's got a coach.
Yeah, and this Jax pick is not looking too hot right now. Down, how much? 28 CS already? Like 0-1.
I could put an easier number to that. 1,000 gold deficit in the top lane.
Yeah, and like 6 minutes in, like the GP, by all means, he skills really well, but those Qs will bully you if you let them. If you let him just get ahead in the early game like this. And I feel like this might just be one of those really early Essence Reaver finishes for this Gangplank, and once he finishes that, it will just get harder for this Jax, because from my understanding, he's looking to buy Bork first. Oh, another fight in bot lane.
Add more of a skirm. Oh, and that is the GP ulti coming down. If Braum had not if Braum had his shield on cooldown, that could have been a kill. But right now, it's just pressure. And speaking of pressure, I hear a sad guitar. Boom, 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 bada, boom, boom. Ujer's moving in on the Seraphine here. I don't think he's got quite enough to finish it off. But Olaf is here, and he's chasing a Braum. Braum is, he's looking low, and Swain is gonna get that kill. Nerf Swain gonna get his first kill of the game.
Yeah, and again, Olaf just
hold on. Ujer's in a weird place. And now he's in a between the Olaf and the Orianna. That's gonna be a big shockwave. Gymnastics had literally just gotten his ult and puts it to great use. Dorgard gonna go down, and that is gonna be the first Drake over to NGL.
And really good movements coming from Gymnastics and Tominato, and I think this was kind of what we expected, like kind of for the last game, where they are the mid jungle duo that that should kind of clear themselves from the enemy team. The Tominato is specifically.
Hold on, we got another fight going. Swain is ulting. He's trying to keep the Olaf alive, but it's a 3v4 at the end here as Orianna comes in. Gonna be quick kills on the Tominato and Nerf Swain. Orianna running for her life. It looks like she is going to get away, though.
Yeah. No Ragnarok for Olaf. It is kind of a rough spot to be in, but...
Jax is gonna get a full solo. Berserker finally paying Doink back for all the bullying he's been getting in the top lane. That was just a really good mechanical outplay there. Nothing really else to say about that. He knew what he needed to do against the Gangplank, and he finally executed it in a way that was just good enough to bring him down.
Yeah, and also the Ignite kind of always helps. He also burned his flash, so now he needs to be a bit more careful when he's in this lane. I think he just found himself in really bad wave states a lot of times this game, which is the reason for the CS difference for now. And again, he's gonna lose another full wave of minions. He's probably lose some weight, lose maybe a few turret plates, And although that solo kill really helps,
Well, speaking of solo kills, Braum is looking low. It's going to be ultis from Seraphine and Narshil here.
Turnaround.
Singencia is going to get the kill. That's an ignite onto Swain. It is not going to pay off, however. Just the one kill in the bot lane. In the top lane, Ujer's coming up. He wants Doink. Gorgard is after Doink, and Doink's going to drop the GP ulti, try to slow them down. That is going to be the flash coming out. It gives enough time for Tominato to come up and try to help defend, and he is going to do it in a great way. Gorgard goes down to the Whiplash, and that is going to be a double kill in the top lane for Tominato. It's that fed state that this jungler loved being in the first game, and he's slowly building his way back up to it. Swain is actually going to try and get a solo kill onto the Braum here. He is not going to get it. Braum was just a little bit too fast, and he is going to go down for his trouble. That is going to secure Rift Herald for NGL, though. Just that extra little bit of distraction on the bot lane. Make sure no one's looking right there at the Herald.
Yeah, they will be able to pick that one up, and it is basically a free first turret in the top side, and I think Tominato also realized that, maybe? No, he's gonna reset again. Wait, huh? Wait, Senji, why do we have an AP versus game? Guys, why are we doing this?
I also just noticed that Nasher's tooth and was stunned into silence.
I was almost sure that was a Borg that was about to be completed, but instead he opts in to finish the Nashers, which I'm not really sure why. He is running the lethal tempo, which is normally the rune that you want to run when you have more on-hit
attack damage build. Yeah. Now maybe it's an on-hit AP build, which Nasher's Tooth would be the best first option there. But it does strike me as a little odd on a team that already has Annie for a lot of ability. Speaking of some fighting, Gangplank, he's going to lure Berserker under turret, and that's going to be enough. And now the first turret goes down in the bot lane. We've got a full-out fight. We have a Tominato powered up by a Seraphine, and Red Panda's actually going to get that first kill of the fight. Now Varus is having to run for his life. This is what happens when you give Tominato a nice Seraphine to just sing back up. This is what happens.
Yep. And again, even if the ultimate doesn't have the effect that you want from the Seraphine, almost the healing, the shielding, and the movement speed buffs are more than enough when it comes down to helping out an Olaf in a team fight, and they will be able to pick up, I think, if I'm not wrong, 2 turrets from
That's
that
2
whole
turrets
play.
off of that fight. That is correct. And at the moment, an 8,000 gold lead. Do you want to take a guess and see where that gold lead is the biggest? It's not the place you expect.
I would have to assume top lane, because
it is what you expected.
I was gonna say, because I think the GP, especially when he farms, he has the highest farm in the game, so GP's Q passive is one of those things where if you're farming efficiently or just better than the enemy, you're just gonna have a decent gold lead just from that. And instead he has his first third gold, 3 kills for himself. I think he's in a really accelerated position for this game. He is
Speaking of accelerating, we are going to go for a Drake here. And so far, NGL is just going to get it without really any contest outside of the bottom lane, just kind of poking in, sniffing around, and saying, oh, okay, I really want no part of this. Please leave me alone. Please.
Yeah. And I think the important thing about this game is that last time, while Tominato was focusing more on the Bel'Veth, while he was on Bel'Veth, he was focusing on these Heralds. This game, he was able to take the Herald and the first 2 dragons, so Dorgard is kind of in a position where he's not able to get a lot of good ganks off, plus not being able to get objectives. Last game, I think he was kind of bailed out by Varus's weakness against these ganks against an Annie. This game, there is no champion where he can kind of abuse that. So he's kind of left in a position where I think he's just getting out jungled, out farmed. Just Tominato is completely taking over this game for now.
Yeah, it does feel like they're outgunned, outplanned, outnumbered, outmanned right now on the field. NGL is in a dominant lane state, 7,000 gold ahead, all of the objectives ahead, which is, by the way, all of the objectives to 0 objectives, when I say all of the objectives ahead. And at this point, what do you need to do if you're Meeps to actually come back from this, as we see defensive ultimates coming out from Narshil just to stay alive?
Also burning the flash, like ult flash, just to stay alive there. Oh?
Speaking of staying alive, Jax is really low, and Swain is gonna flash in and try to get it. He's gonna force him backwards, and Berserker is just going to stretch his arms out and say, "Take me. It's over at this point." And he is going to go down.
And like a difference that we see here, like last game when Narshil was playing the Swain, he opted in for the grasp of undying, and
this time, yeah, they went for an electrocute, and they are electrocuting Varus right now. He's gonna get pretty low before Ujir runs in to try and stop the bleeding. Orianna getting a little bit low, but between an Orianna and a Swain, this Ujir doesn't feel like he can actually keep up the pressure, which is an amazing thing to say. It really speaks to how far behind this jungle has gotten. Almost down by a full half of the farm, down by a full 3,000 from his counterpart. The lowest, he's only got a little bit more gold than Donut has right now. Dorgard is not feeling very good on this Ujir, and Never Lucky wants to finish it out right here. You can smell it in the, you can see it on their faces, even though their faces are completely not moving avatars. Speaking of not moving, Annie wants to make sure Seraphine doesn't move, and she's gonna give her life for it. Red Panda lives as Donut goes down. It's a tasty treat that's fun to eat, folks. And I see, is that Tominato taking a solo, or at least trying to take a solo Herald? And he will take it, actually. So that's the second Herald that it looks like he wants to drop in the top lane here for Doink to just get a little bit more gold. You know, he's a pirate. There's never enough gold here.
Yep, and to be honest, I feel like there's some communication issues on the side of House of Meeps, because they have a fed Varus. Like, this Varus is more than capable of doing damage. And by the way,
and here he is right now, by the way. He's poking the Olaf, but oh man, Tominato knows he's got to get that Varus down if he's going to do anything. He doesn't manage to get it down, he will give his life in the attempt, but Berserker is going to come down to Orianna right there. And now Ujir, he's flashing in, he's running in. He's just doing everything he can to pick up a kill here. The Brahm's getting chunked down awfully low, but Donut is going to get a kill onto Gymnastics. That Baron, that Herald did get its second charge off, though, so that tower is looking a little weak to hide behind. Never Lucky doesn't really feel like they need to back off.
Yeah, they can just kind of stay here and still keep the pressure up. One thing I was gonna mention was what was it? Leeching Leer coming from Sing. Okay, I'm just really bad. How do you say it? Sanjisia?
I think it's Sanjisia.
Okay, Sanjisia. I'm just like not sure how to pronounce that, but
the fun thing about fake names is they are in fact fake.
Yep. Nobody knows how to pronounce them other than the actual name owner. But yeah, he's actually going in for the full AP build, and I guess it can help with killing Olaf from really high HP. But again, just like you see, Mortius works really well, especially the damage coming from the Udyr's AP, the damage coming from Annie's AP.
We've got all of
They're
Never
running.
Lucky Gaming. They're running up the jungle looking for whom they may devour. And looks like Tominato's got his eyes on his enemy captain. In the back line, though, here comes Berserker to draw the flak, and draw it he will.
Oh.
He's getting chunked down really nicely here. There's a shockwave out of Orianna, and Berserker's gonna go down. Braum now here to try and stop the bleeding as well. That's gonna be a defensive ulti, but guess what? Olaf is unstoppable. Gonna run right through it and take down Donut. And now he's deep in the back lines. The bear will get some revenge on the gymnastics, and in fact, Tominato will get taken down by a very different bear. Now Swain is running from that same bear. He's going to meet up with the Seraphine, who tries to shield him out of it, slow the Udyr down, and at this point, Dorgard is going to say, actually, I don't want to take on their bot lane by myself. I'm going to pull out. We've got a gameplay issue to address. We have pirates on our port bow. Jax, Berserker, chasing him down, flanked by Senjacia. This fed Senjacia wants to feed him another kill, but in fact Berserker is going to get that kill all for himself. Important to note, we have first items coming online for all House of Meeps. Anything noteworthy there?
I think most of them are just kind of normal. Other than I would say the AP from the Bears. Other than that, I don't think there's much really interesting buys. He does complete the Riftmaker as well, so 2 items completed. Another, well, on the other side though, like most of them are completing their seconds. Seraphine is really getting really close to the Seraph's Embrace completion. Orianna almost has a fully stacked Rod of Ages with that Seraph's. Olaf already working towards the Hydra, and GP, although he hasn't been too proactive in the last few minutes of this game, he's still doing the same thing that he did last game. He's just being a menace in the side lane, forcing either Jax to stay in the side lane or just keeps taking turrets. He's already up 2 levels, and we see the Baron play coming again.
And this time, the Meeps are not blind to it. They see the Baron going down. 2,000 health right now. Swain ulting on the backline, trying to keep everyone else from coming in. That's going to be a big ult out of, or rather a smite out of Tominato to secure it. And I really don't think Meeps are long for this world, especially since look at Gymnastics. He's about to get a full free level when he hits that 10th stack on the Rod of Ages. This does not look good. If you're House of Meeps right now, you're down by more than 10k gold. You've got no objectives. Underline, circle, no objectives. Is there a way back in?
So personally, I would say there would be, maybe, if this race was going actually on hit. But like with him being AP, I just don't see them really having the DPS to really kill this all off. Like through the, unless the Olaf makes a huge mistake, which
let's see if he's gonna make one right now. He's up against 2. That's gonna be the DP ulti coming in. It is gonna be Tominato going down, but right now Annie gets caught out over the wall, chunked down by half. The Seraphine ulti is not gonna find anyone, but they still have the Baron buff. They're moving in on this inhib. It is not long for this world. That will get popped very quickly now, and Never Lucky just wants a way in. That way in may be at the hands of brave young pirate in the bottom lane. He is doing his best all by himself. It's a 3v1. He's flashing out of it. He's gonna get Donut down before he gives his life up once again to not get a turret.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he's been really unlucky with the turret HPs for the last few games, but he still gets a trade kill, which is not the end of the world. The Rod of Ages finally gets completed. The Seraphs is completed for the Seraphine. So this next dragon will actually be really influential for this game, I think, because normally Cloud Soul is one of those souls where people are more willing to kind of give up, because I think people are not scared of it as much as they are compared to other souls. But when you look at the enemy team, it is Olaf, it is Orianna, it is Swain.
Once
they ult, they want that.
Passive, plus the plus the soul. Absolutely. And House of Meeps isn't even going to try and make a serious attempt at this, it looks like. And how could they? How could they actually move in on this? I say, watching Berserker poke his head out just to see what there is to see. And there's a lot of speed to see. He's going to try and get a pick on Oriana. He's going to be all over the place to try and get it, but Tominato is going to stop him from actually getting that kill. Oriana very low at the moment, really needs to heal up before they can do much more damage here. They do have the TP if they need to back, but I don't even think she's going to try to back. I think she just wants to play support right now, get a good ulti off when it's recharged here in a little bit, and this game is over. And I think they know that. In the bot lane, we see Tominato pushing in bot wave here, and that's going to be that turret down very quickly. Even without Barons, this level gap makes it feel like they have a Baron buff. It is hard to poke them. It is hard to approach them. All of the inhibitors are going to be down in 3, 2... No? No? Not quite yet. Jax's... Yep, there. We've got ultis coming out. Swain trying to find anyone to put his ult on. He's going to flash into the enemy team, try to knock down that Annie. He's going to stun her just long enough for Tominato to take her out. Bear is out of play as well. Udyr going to be the next to go down to Tominato's axe. Bear is on the back line, going to find Oriana, but it's not going to be enough. That's going to be a 5-4-1 triple kill over to Doink, and that is going to be the series. That is going to be the game. Never Lucky Gaming has indeed found some luck tonight.
Yeah, and to be honest, off the backs of Tominato and Gymnastics, they performed really well in these 2 games, and huge props. But I think really clean win this game though. Really,
very
I don't
clean.
know. Yeah, I'm kind of impressed. Clean. I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah. Never lucky. They didn't need to be lucky in this game, but it sure didn't hurt. That level 1 invade going slightly in their favor definitely helped, but the rest of it was just great map control, great macro control, outplays in every lane. All of it snowballing into an irrespressible lead over High on Meeps.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I don't think House of Meeps played that bad. Like there was obviously the bot lane was working well, but when your only lane that has a lead just kind of makes a mistake about builds, it kind of puts you in a rough spot. I feel like the AP was just not the move there. I don't know if he maybe the first game, Gymnastics AP versus mid kind of got into his head or something, but I feel like an on-head Varus build would have really helped him much more. Like maybe the Blade of the Ruined King would have actually helped him kill the Olaf, and also forced him to build armor, so it would be helpful for Annie as well. But instead, he did go for the AP. That kind of put them in a rough spot. But again, these things happen. It's really early in the season. This is only the first match, and like mistakes can happen. But mistakes are there so that you can learn from them. So learning from these things will be important.
Speaking of learning, I am surprised to see the final damage totals for this game. We're seeing Swain coming out at 18k, just 2k behind Tominato's unbearably strong Olaf. Like you said, if Olaf wins in the early game, he wants to steamroll this, and then that's just gonna not stop. The question here is, we have an unstoppable force and an immovable boulder. Which breaks first? And in this case, the answer was the boulder.
Yeah. To be honest, they actually had a lot of frontline, but like they just again, like we talked about, the Olaf getting ahead, and they had other ways to kind of have access to the frontline without the Seraphino, like the Oriana bowls. The Swain W can actually create a decent amount of pressure, because that thing does a bit of damage, but the slow can actually be really devastating in some of the team fights. It can just not let you play or kite as like how you would prefer. And yeah, I think the Olaf pick, just like you said, he removed the boulder.
Yeah, that boulder was shattered. And I've got so many questions for the not lucky team here. I've got so many questions about picks and bans and drafts, and I'm hoping we might actually get a chance to talk to them here, hopefully. Unfortunately, not confirmed as of yet. It is pretty late. I know these guys need some sleep. But if you had to name a most valuable player for this series, Sultan, I'll let you go first, but I'm pretty sure we have the same answer.
Yeah, I guess it all goes to Tominato. I'll also name my runner-up with gymnastics. Although I think like scoreline wise, gymnastics actually like looked better than Tominato, but when we look at the actual plays and how they won these games, Belveth in game one, it was just Belveth in game one was just really insane. I really think that was, again, this was all helped by Red Panda, by the way, the guy that we thought might have been the weak link that might cause the loss, but Tominato, Belveth, and Olaf, backed by that Seraphine, he was just carrying through these team fights, making sure that they finished this, and also like just really good objective control. Game one on Belveth, taking the Barons, taking the Heralds, especially the Heralds when you're on Belveth are the ones that you want to focus. And game two was just like he took almost every single objective he could and left Dorgard to left out to dry.
In fact, every objective was taken in game two by Never Lucky Gaming. It was really something I hadn't even thought of since that outrageous Cloud9 split a couple of years back, where they had a running streak of never losing a turret in a game. That's what it made me think of because that's how controlled, how dominant Never Lucky was in that second game. First game, they had to iron out some kinks. They had a little bit of an unlucky draft, but they didn't need to be lucky. And this game, they controlled the draft really well. It everything kind of lined up in a really perfect manner for them to have such dominant control over this game. And I've got to agree, Tominato definitely most valuable player in this series. I'm actually going to say my runner up is Red Panda because, as you said, Red Panda really did seem like he was supposed to be the weak link here. He's the lowest tier on both teams, the lowest in the league, tied with a couple of other players that we will get to meet over the next couple of weeks. And all he had to do was sit there and not die. And he did that spectacularly. He excelled. He went above and beyond that Call of Duty to, in fact, not only not die, but end up with at 14 assists at the end of game two. I think it's fair to say that if they had had Red Panda on a normal quote unquote ADC, that Never Lucky Gaming would not have had the control they had in the second game. Seraphine, both times, was the key to their compositions. Seraphine, that healing, that shielding, that movement speed, enabling the jungle, enabling the mid lane, enabling her support to move forward and support with damage, support with shielding, do help jungle do damage, help mid lane do crowd control by getting into range. Red Panda was crucial for all of that. And without that Seraphine pick both times, this could have gone very, very differently.
Oh yeah, and again, like Seraphine, although it is played in bot lane, not a lot of people like. I've known some ADCs who would like just absolutely just not play the champion. Even when the champion was at his best in the bot lane, people would like. I know ADCs that would just refuse to play that. So like being willing to like being able to play the actual ADCs and also be willing to play these like mages in the bot lane will helped them a lot when it comes to like being more flexible in these drafts. But like moving on, they can do a lot of things. Like when you get Swain Seraphine for your first two picks, you can send Swain mid, AD support. You can send Seraphine mid, AD support. Maybe you can even send Swain top lane. I think that was like you mentioned it. So like this would really help them with drafting and kind of just outmaneuvering the enemy team when it comes to just getting that small edge in the pregame before the game even starts.
And speaking of where to send things, we are going to send it to a brief intermission, after which I expect we actually will get to talk to Tominato. So don't go anywhere. Stick around. Tominato is coming up here very briefly. we're back. We're joined by the caster desk's unanimous pick for the most valuable player of both games, and the team leader for Never Lucky Gaming, Tominato. Tominato, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course. I'd prefer the title Team Commander rather than Team Leader, but
Team
no worries.
Commander.
Yes.
Team Commander Tominato.
Yeah.
So first off, any words for High on Meeps? Any words briefly for them?
I don't know. Good game.
Good. Okay. You know, that was a lot nicer than I was expecting. We'll take that. we'll take that. You know, sometimes in competition the blood runs a little hot, but
No,
always
we're all
nice
chill
to see
here.
some good
We're all chill. Never Lucky is like a really nice team, you know?
I did get that impression sitting in the comms with you here for a moment.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about before we went into the interview how the comms went. You guys said it went swimmingly, and we saw that in the second game. You guys had it locked. Absolutely, you guys had it locked and loaded the entirety of the game. I believe at 5 minutes you had a 2,000 goal lead. At 10 minutes, that was something like 5,000. By the end of the game, you had a 10,000 gold lead. All of the objectives. That was a textbook win.
Oh yeah, man, dude. I mean, I just get the fucking lead. I do my shit, and then I like the entire late game. I just was like perma farming, getting objectives. That I could not care. I turned my brain off, and I didn't care what anyone else had to say.
Now, I do have a question for you. The Malzahar ban. Where is that coming from? I haven't seen Malzahar be relevant since I started League of Legends, and he was my first main. And then he got all these kind of ridiculous nerfs back when the Portal of Zerat was back in the game. Why the Malzahar ban?
I don't know. He played it on OPGG.
Oh,
right?
You guys had Olaf and Gangplank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're bad against CC. Because even though Olaf, like, you know,
it forces the ultimate.
Yeah, it forces it, you know? And it's like Gangplank, it forces the berry. And so Malzahar is actually an incredibly hard counter to both of those champions. Not a lot of people know that.
That does make some sense. I just saw the Malzahar ban both times, and I was scrambling to find an answer for it because that one seemed like out of left field. Something else that I'm curious about. In the first game, we had that AP Varus, and then we saw it played against you. What was the thought process in the first game? I mean, let's be honest, that first game was a little bit messy. There was a little bit of luck involved for Never Lucky Gaming.
Oh, come on. They didn't give a shit about Rift Heralds. They didn't fucking care about that at all against a Belveth. Gave up 2 Barons. Like, what do you mean luck? They just gave up every objective, every like normal, like useful objective. I don't give a shit about early dragons if I'm Belveth. What are you talking about? And I get a 20-minute Baron with Belveth, and then a 5-minute Baron. Like, of course we're gonna win that game. You know? What was the question?
So from our side, you know, we get to see all the statistics and things, and I've heard that sometimes, you know, casters getting to see all the statistics the entire game, we're overthinking it at a level that the players can't see. So for that first game, it did look like you guys were a good bit behind until suddenly you weren't.
Okay, I mean, that's your opinion. I felt like definitely we were behind early game, but like I feel like even starting in mid game, despite being behind in gold and like shit, we had like the tempo advantage. We were getting the turrets, we were getting the heralds, I was scaling up. We were playing a scaling comp. Panda was doing great in bot lane. With just farming up, keeping ahead. Tyreek was doing a great job pushing up top lane. The Varus was just gonna scale, have like a shit ton of damage. I mean, we knew our win con. We knew what was going to happen. I never felt pressured at all that entire first game. I felt like I was genuinely more comfortable in the first game than the second game.
Really? That is, I'm gonna have to rewatch that VOD because that's very interesting. One last question for you. Looking ahead, looking at what the meta might become here in the Phoenix League. Do you have an answer if the Seraphine starts getting banned out because in
They're
fourth
not gonna
game,
ban Seraphine, dude. You see what happened second game? They banned 3 of my champs. They're gonna ban 3 of my champs every single fucking series that Never Lucky is playing it. Okay? I'll just tell you that. And if they don't, then they're in for a world of fucking hurt.
Um, do you think? I guess this can be also like friendly banter in the team. Do you think Red Panda would struggle if they don't if
Yeah.
they ban Seraphine?
Probably. I don't know. That's. I mean, I definitely think Seraphine's the best champion, but like, I mean, he's performed on other champions.
I say that because I guess on paper he is the lowest ranked player I think in the whole league. With
Wow.
I think maybe another Silver 4 player that we have.
Yeah.
So I like at least when I was coming into this series as a color cast and I looked on paper, I expected Panda to like kind of perform worse than what he did, and
Yeah.
even on the Seraphine, I think he performed better. Like some people would say, okay, everyone can play Seraphine, but I think he was there when he needed to be. His positionings were pretty good. Maybe some of the Seraphine notes were viffed, but you know we all have that. So I just want to see your
I mean,
opinion.
we practiced a lot of our combos with Seraphine and my picks. We have a very good game plan, me and him. And the Seraphine Swain, the Seraphine Brand, that's just a killer combo. And of course, like, you know, they only have 3 bans for the first phase. And,
True.
you know, if they want to ban that out, like, I'm going to get my Hecarim, I'm going to get my Belveth, I'm going to get one of my Fiddlesticks. Like, one of those 3 is going to be deadly. Okay?
Yeah.
And even on Olaf, I'm okay at Olaf. I obviously didn't play that well the second game, but I think like that's fine if I get Olaf and we just get Seraphine Swain, Seraphine Brand, something like that. I think like bans, we're not worried about bans.
Okay. And also,
I have
like,
no idea where your head is at.
What do you
You
mean,
thought
man?
that Olaf game was not as good as it could have been?
Oh, come on.
like if
Come on.
it can always be better.
Be serious, man. You watched me die
I mean,
like
it can
7
always-
times for no fucking reason. Come on. I appreciate the love, but
5
come
for the
on.
record. 5.
Come on.
I guess the only other
I have a little bit of an ego, but I'm not even going to say that that game was good.
the only other question that I will, I guess, ask: do you know the other teams in this league? Like, did you play against them maybe in scrims, or maybe there's like some players that you know? And how do you? Although it's really early in the season, it's like the first game, but have you like maybe watched the other like I guess another game was streamed from this league? Like, what do you think about the rest of the, I guess, the competition?
I mean, I've been playing with some of the players in 10 men's. The only player I feel like I would actually maybe have a threat against is not currently playing. They're a free agent. We might be looking to pick up them as either a sub or a starter in case some things fall through with our team. But I honestly, yeah, I don't feel really threatened right now. If something pops up, I'll be sure to let you know. But I don't think there's going to be any issues with Never Lucky until the championship.
Okay.
Well, hey,
So you're confident
Tominato.
that you're gonna win?
I'd say so.
Okay, that's fair.
Big confidence and the skills to back it up. Tominato, thank you for joining us. And that is going to be all from us here today with this series. Again, I'm Arzakali Sultan. Thank you for joining us as our color caster for today. And of course, shout out to our production team, everyone in the background who made this game happen, the series happen. It was a lot of fun to watch, and we'll be watching Never Lucky Gaming very closely as the series progresses. Sultan, any last words for our good people?
Thanks for tuning in. It was a blast to cast. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope you guys will have many more good streams.
Well, thank you all, and good night.
Thanks for having me.